What's up, everyone? It's AG Reviews back at it again, and today we are going to rank my top 10 favorite films of 2025. So let's talk about it. I know it's taken me a little while to get this video out. I do appreciate everyone's patience. I have just been very busy in my life, and there was a movie that ended up actually making this list that I kind of had a feeling that by the time I finally caught it, that it would make the list. So I just kind of wanted to push it off long enough to see that film. And then there was a couple other films on this list that I felt like I wanted a little bit more time to marinate and think about those films before I, went and did this ranking. This was a really competitive year. I'm just going to be honest with you. There was a lot of movies that I felt like could have made this list. And I had to take off, which I really didn't want to, but it was just such a competitive 2025. There were so many good films released this year of all different genres, and it was really hard to make this list. I'll just be honest with you. I have honorable mentions, which I'm going to talk about here, and there's a boatload of them. Really, there's so many of them. And that's going to take up a decent chunk of this video, so this is going to be a long one. I'm very well prepared for that. But yeah, man, what a great year for film. That's just the one thing I wanted to celebrate with this video is that this year was a very, very good year for film. And I hope this trend continues because I was very pleased with what we got this year, and I felt like there was a lot to be proud of, a lot to love, a lot of films that are going to be ones I constantly revisit. So I was very happy with how this year turned out. So let's talk about some of those honorable mentions. Right off rip at the beginning of the year, 2025, Novocaine. Absolutely loved that film. Jack Quaid was great in it. Nepo Babies, continue to rise here in 2025. All jokes aside, no, great movie, great action, a lot of heart. Really loved what Jack Quaid brought there. And then that was quickly followed up with Mickey 17. Which I really enjoyed that film. It was by Boo Chon. I'm bad with pronunciations on names, to be honest with you. But the guy who did Parasite, he did that film. It got a lot of hate. It was a very mixed reception, but I was on the fence. I really enjoyed it. I thought Robert Pattinson's performance in that film was really, really good. So I was really high on that film as well. I also thought Thunderbolts was a big return to form for Marvel. I felt like it was a very emotional film, had very deep themes, great action set pieces, great characters, a way to integrate the MCU all back together. We went back to the Final Destination franchise. I felt Final Destination Bloodlines was fantastic. It had a little bit of the same formula that you normally get, but I felt like had a really good edge and a twist and a spin on the story the one we normally get. So I really enjoyed that. That's always a franchise that I think is really fun, and I always like revisiting. So I really enjoyed that film. Another one was Warfare. Warfare was really, really underrated for me. I'm not a huge fan of like war films in general, but I felt like that one was really unique. It had one of the best intros of the year. So that one was really solid for me as well. Bring Her Back, the follow-up to the Rocka Rocka Brothers follow-up to Talk to Me, which came out a couple years ago. That was one of my favorite films. I thought that was really well done, very eerie. Some of the most unsettling imagery that we got this year. So that one was definitely close to making the list, but inevitably did not. We returned to the John Wick franchise with Ballerina, which I thought was a very worthy entry into the franchise. Ana de Armas had a very good performance for me. Kind of proved that we can continue this franchise on without Keanu Reeves and it still be very, very quality and very, very good. And I really enjoyed that film. I thought the action set pieces were great. Everything about it that you normally would like was there. And I thought Ana de Armas really stepped into that lead role very well. Probably one of my most surprising films of the year, and one I definitely would have never expected to hit my list, even in an honorable mention form, is K-Pop Demon Hunters. It was a movie that I have been hearing the songs to for the last 6 months. I have two daughters, one that is uber obsessed with it, and I didn't even watch it for a couple of months into my daughter's obsession. I just heard the music, which I thought the tracks were really, really good. And then I finally got to see the movie when they did the re-release a couple of months ago, and it was really good. I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It makes a lot of sense why a lot of kids are taking to it and really enjoy it and really like it. It was a very good movie. I felt like some of the themes they dived into were really relevant for today's day and age, and had enough to chew on there for the adults. So that one for me was one of the bigger surprise hits of the year. 28 Years Later was one that I really enjoyed. It's gotten a lot of hate, but I thought there was a lot to it that I really liked. It was more in that style of the original film. I wasn't a huge fan of 28 Weeks Later, so I really liked going back to like that original vibe and tone that we got in the original film. So I really enjoyed that. I also liked the How to Train Your Dragon remake. I have never seen the animated film, so don't crucify me for that one. But I did enjoy the remake. I thought the cast was really it was well casted. Mason Thames, I think, continues to be a standout of his generation and a very promising young actor. So I really enjoyed that film as well. F1 was a film I really did not think I would like. I'm not really into F1, the sport, as it is in general, but Brad Pitt and Damon Idris did a really good job in that film for me, and I really actually had a lot better of a time than I ever would have expected going into that film. And then also Fantastic Four, we finally got the MCU's version of the Fantastic Four this year. I thought that movie was fantastic. I thought it was the best comic book movie of the year. I rewatched it the other day, and I really enjoyed it. I think the cast's chemistry just bled through. They really did a good job with casting the Marvel's first family, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. And I'll even get a shout out to Superman as well. So the whole DCU and James Gunn's universe has been a topic of controversy, but I felt like James Gunn did a good job at laying the groundwork for a universe here. I wasn't in love with the movie, but I feel like it did enough to start the universe off well. And so I'm excited to see where it goes now that we're getting into some projects here, that aren't James Gunn, co-written and directed. So yeah, I'm very excited. I thought it was pretty good. Man, did the Predator franchise come back with a banger. Predator Badlands was incredible. I absolutely loved that film. I was a little skeptical by going the route of having the Predator be the protagonist, by going a little bit more lighthearted, but the action is just as good as it's ever been. I love the pairing between the Predator and Elle Fanning's character. That was really cool. Clearly, they're setting the groundwork for an inevitable Alien vs. Predator movie again, and I'm all for it. I thought that movie was fantastic. That was the one that really, I had to really, struggle with in my head to not put it in my top 10. But it was very much worthy, and in any other year would have been in my top 10 for sure. And I know it's not a 2025 film, but Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, we finally got it this year. I've been hearing about this film for over 10 years, being such a massive fan of Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. And to me, it was like the perfect version of this of the film. It's going to be my go-to version. I can't wait for it to get a physical release and to release on digital, so that way I can watch that version whenever I'm itching to watch Kill Bill. But I just couldn't include it because it's obviously a film that came out, 20 years ago. I can't say it was a 2025 release, even though we finally got that essentially director's cut of Kill Bill. But man, it was so good. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it again. All right, only two more. I know I've been going long on my honorable mentions. Silent Night, Deadly Night, that one came out at the end of the year. I thought that was really fun and delivered a good time. Very cool concept. I haven't seen any of the original films. I really don't plan on it because a lot of people have informed me that they're not very good. But I really enjoyed the film that we got here. And definitely am going to revisit that once that comes out. And The Housemaid as well. I felt like The Housemaid was a really good film. I thought that Amanda Seyfried, Brandon Sklar, Sydney Sweeney all delivered a very good movie that was very twisty, right? It was very trashy, but it had a lot of twists in its plot. And I thought that worked really well for it. I thought it was a very enjoyable film, and one that I'm definitely going to revisit once it comes out. I know my wife would be a huge fan of that film, so that's definitely one that I will revisit. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my honorable mentions. Like I said, 2025, that was I don't even know how many movies. 2025 was a very hard year to put this list together. And maybe on a given day, some of these would get swapped out for what I actually had in my top 10. But we're gonna go ahead with the top 10 list, and this is what I'm gonna go on record as my 10 favorite films of the year. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Begonia. This is definitely not a film that I was expecting to enjoy as much as I did. Very weird, very visually appealing, and a movie that, like, on its surface level, if you just told me what the plot was about, I would tell you that you were crazy to think that I would like it, because it didn't seem at all like it was going to be a movie for me. And most of the movie is literally just Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons in a basement having dialogue. But to me, it was very captivating, and I know this is maybe a controversial opinion, but when you get to the ending and you kind of figure out what's going on truly in this film, I think that actually made it better for me. I know a lot of people say it lost steam and they think the ending is the worst part. I actually think once you got that ending, it made the whole experience much more enjoyable for me, and one that I plan on revisiting very, very soon. Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons carry this movie. I mean, their performances are fantastic. I'm really surprised Jesse Plemons is not getting more Oscar consideration for this film. He was really, really good. He continues to just deliver great performances, and this is no different. And Emma Stone, I think she's one of the best actresses of the last 15, 20 years, so I'm not surprised that she put in a great performance here. I still have not seen any other of Yorgos I don't even know how to pronounce that last name. Like I said, I'm very bad with pronouncing names. I haven't seen any of his films. I know he has done a few of them that have gotten a lot of praise and recognition. So it's definitely a director I'm going to go back to and watch some of his previous films, because I liked this film so much for me. But yeah, so, like I said, this year was very stacked. This number 10 spot, I think the number 10 and like the top 3 were very hard for me to pick. And this one on the day for me was my number 10. So yeah, at number 10 is Begonia. Coming in at number 9 is going to be the early January horror film Companion. This film was, I think, very much hurt by its marketing. I think they revealed a little bit too much. Even this poster. When I originally reviewed this film, I didn't even put this poster in my video just because I didn't want to spoil it. But I had so much fun with Companion. This was actually the first film I ever saw at one of the AMC Screen Unseens, so that was a really cool experience. I'd obviously gotten word that it was going to be Companion the week that I went. But, just going there and kind of having that anticipation of not really knowing if for sure this was the film that I was going to see really added to the experience. And I just felt like it was really good. I felt like Sophie Thatcher continues to be one of the new, like, up-and-coming horror it girls. And she had to obviously really walk a line here with this performance because she's playing a robot. So she wasn't actually playing a human being, but she did a really good job at the little nuances of, like, being a robot, but also trying to seem and act human. And I really like that. I like when Jack Quaid... I really like Jack Quaid as an actor, and I like when he goes and does roles where he's darker, like this. And then, like, you got with Richie in Scream 5, so I really enjoyed his performance with this. Yeah, I just think this is a movie that takes you along for a ride, and it twists and turns, and it's not really... It doesn't really go anywhere that you would expect, which I really like that. When I can't predict a film, I really like that, and it was like the big twist, obviously, was that she was not a real person and that she was essentially a companion robot, but even that happens very early on in the film, and then I think the rest of the film still has moments that surprise you. So I really enjoy when a movie can do that, even though I felt like it shouldn't have been spoiled. I think they recovered well and delivered one of the better films of the year. And for me, obviously, this list I think is going to be very horror heavy. I think 2025 did a really good job with horror, so expect to see more horror titles here because it was a great year for horror. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Together, starring real-life couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie. This was another film that I had kind of heard buzz about for quite some time before it actually released. And once I finally got to see it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. I thought the themes of codependency were really prominent and written very well. The relationship and where it's at between these two characters, I felt like was very relatable, very real. So I really enjoyed the story that they went with here. I think it has some of the best body horror of the year, for sure. Probably. I mean, if we look at my list, there's not really many other body horror films. I don't think it was as good as like say The Substance of last year, but I felt like it was good enough, to propel it into my top 10. I felt like the performances were really good. I think this is the best that we've gotten out of Dave Franco. Allison Brie as well. I think they both, lend each other with great chemistry. Obviously, they're a real life couple, so I think that translates really well on screen. But yeah, this was a film that I really enjoyed. I think it blundered a little bit right at the end with that awkward CGI shot of them formed together. I thought that was very, very strange. But yeah, together, very enjoyable film, and it made my top 10 at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And this was the film I was talking about that I had, been a little late to seeing. I didn't see it until last week. And I kind of knew, just from the previews and what I had heard about it, that like, hey, should hold off on that top 10 list before I decide to make that video, because I'm probably going to really enjoy this movie. And I really did. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this one than, say, the other ones. Just because I didn't put out like an official review for it or anything, because I just saw it. Yeah, this film was incredible. Visually, one of the most beautiful films of 2025. It might be the best looking film of 2025. And it's kind of a travesty that it didn't really get like a full theatrical run. It was basically just stuck on Netflix. That's another conversation for another day. But yeah, very visually beautiful. I think performance-wise, very great, very strong. This is a three-headed monster in this film, between Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, and Jesus, what is her name? Mia Goth. Fellow Scream Queen. I thought they all did fantastic. I know Jacob Elordi has already won, I think, a Critics' Choice Awards for Best Supporting Actor, and I think that's absolutely worthy. All of them give brilliant performances. The structure of this film as well is very unique. It starts off, you get Frankenstein's side of the story, and I felt like that first half really did a good job at setting everything up, getting the story to where it needs to be. And then in the second half, you get the monsters side of the story, which I felt like brought some of the most emotionally rich moments of the film and did just a really good job at making you sympathize with him and kind of question. And I know this is a classic story, so plot-wise, there's really not a lot here that's like brand new. But I think that, having that moral dilemma and back and forth of like who truly is the monster in this situation, and the movie not even definitively really answering that, I thought was really well done. Overall, the performances here are just fantastic. Visually, everything is really, really great. This is definitely one of the best movies of the year. I will say that I think the pacing struggles a little bit in the back half, and that's kind of why it's not higher. I think if it was a little bit better paced and didn't feel like it was rushing through things, it probably would have been like in my top 5 and maybe top 3, because I did enjoy it so much. And that's really more in the story of the monster in the back half, because I feel like it does kind of come to a little bit of a halt in the type of story that they're telling. I think that was necessary, right, for you to sympathize with the monster and to, really be upset at what's been happening to him and how, Frankenstein had made so many mistakes to get where we are in the story. But it does come a little bit, that first half of Frankenstein's story was so quick paced, kept going, and didn't really slow down at any point, that I feel like when you get to the second half, it really comes to a halt. But outside of that, I mean, like I said, this movie's gorgeous. Performances are great. And it's kind of encapsulates everything of why we're worried about Netflix buying Warner Brothers, because this is a movie that should have had a full theatrical release. I mean, that's just what it is. It should have been in the theaters. Everyone should have been able to see it in theaters day one, and it had a long run, because it deserved it. This is the type of movie you go and see in the theater. Um, so yeah, with all that said, Frankenstein is my number 7 of 2025. Number 6 is going to be Roofman. Channing Tatum has the best performance of his career in a film that I thought was very strangely marketed, because it was really marketed like it was just going to be a comedy, but actually had so much more heart than I ever could have expected. I thought the chemistry between Channing Tatum and Kristen Dunst was actually really good, which to me was the most surprising part of this, because I've had my criticisms, I think, of Kristen Dunst when she portrays relationships in films. But yeah, this movie, it's a crazy real life story where I didn't even realize how much of this story was actually true and actually did happen. But it's one that just emulates and gives you it gives so much heart, and you understand and you empathize with somebody who is clearly not as good of a person as he leads on, but just wants to have his family, have be a dad, do good things, but he's someone that just can't make things work and make things happen, which I think is really relatable. So yeah, I thought all around this was really good. I thought that everyone here had great performances. This is probably my biggest surprise of the year, because this is a film that I wasn't really expecting much out of, and it emotionally resonated with me much more than I expected. So coming in at number 6 is Roofman. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. Now, unlike Roofman, I very much expected this movie to be good. I love the Knives Out movies. I think both the original and Glass Onion are both fantastic films. I did think that Glass Onion was a bit of a step down from Knives Out, even though I still very much enjoyed Glass Onion. And I felt like this film was very much a return to form. I think this is the second best film in the trilogy. I really liked the cast here. I liked the central mystery that we got. I think this was the most unpredictable reveal of all of the Knives Out films. I think Josh O'Connor stole the show, along with Daniel Craig, of course, as Benoit Blanc. He's always really, really good in these films. Josh O'Connor, though, is really the standout for me. I think he is one of the best actors right now in Hollywood, and I want to see him in more stuff. I know he's going to be in Discovery Day coming up this year, which I can't wait for that movie either. But I really felt like this was definitely a step back up to where we were with that original Knives Out film, and I really, really enjoyed this. Rian Johnson can honestly make these movies forever, and I will never get tired of them. Because even if you get a movie that maybe steps back a little bit, like Glass Onion did, the next one's going to be a whole new story with a whole new crop of characters, and to me that just lends itself for some of the most enjoyable films and whodunits that you'll ever see. So I really love this series. So for that, I think this was a worthy addition and a good cap on the trilogy, the first trilogy at least. We're probably going to get many more of these movies. So for me, Wake Up Dead Man comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 5 is going to be The Long Walk. Man, this movie really hit me on an emotional level that I didn't think it really would. Obviously, this movie came out on a weekend where there was a lot of political violence, between the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and there was a school shooting that same weekend. So I think when I went to go see this, I was really in a headspace to probably be affected by it at the maximum that I could be. Because the story that this told just really resonated with me and just hit me in a gut punch like I never expected. When I saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, it was never a book I read from Stephen King. Obviously, he's a very acclaimed book writer, like it says here, from legendary author. And there's a lot that he's done that I have read, a lot of horror-centric stuff. So I wasn't really the most excited about this film because I didn't really know what this story was going to bring. And what it brings is a movie that is just simply characters walking to better their lives and be rich in a world that is, completely totalitarian, apocalyptic, and they're just trying to make their lives better. And it's a movie where they're walking only, and basically one by one, all of them start to perish. And you would think normally in a normal movie that would start to get repetitive and not really work by the time you get to the ending. But because of the way that this movie does it, and builds the relationship between all of these kids that are walking together. It is such a gut punch every single time that one of them dies. And they really build a brotherhood that, as you know, I'm a male. I grew up with brothers. I grew up with really good friends. This movie is very relatable in how these relationships grow over such a short period of time. And yeah, it was just a film that when I saw it, it was very emotionally impactful. And then I rewatched it like a month or two later, whenever it came out on digital or in physical release, and I enjoyed it just as much. I think this is a movie that speaks to everyone and everyone can relate to, and one that I think will probably want to be one of my more revisited films from the year of 2025. So for me, The Long Walk comes in at number 4. And we're at the top 3. This was a really hard top 3 to make, I'll be honest with you guys. I really went back and forth on what I thought was going to land in these 3 spots. And it was a really difficult decision, partly because I think all 3 of these movies, if they were on their own and in a different year, they're the best movies of the year. So it was really hard to go through with them. So let's get to it. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Zach Cregger's Weapons. Zach Cregger's between Barbarian and Weapons has really come onto the scene ferociously to announce that he's one of the best horror directors of this new generation. Weapons was such a great film for me, and it primarily is because of the non-linear storytelling that it takes. Essentially, each chapter of this movie is surrounded around one character and told from their POV of the events of this film. And with each chapter, essentially right at the end, it starts to get really, really good, starts to really progress, and then it just cuts to the next person. And that seems like it would suck, and it's kind of like a tease, which it is, and that's kind of the beauty of what works about this film. But this film does it so well because each time you get a chapter, you just get a little bit more information until we finally get to the end and we get the last chapter and we figure out everything that's going on here. And then we get one of the most satisfying endings that I've seen to a film in quite some time. And this is one of the best movies of 2025. Like I said, my top 3 is like interchangeable. It could be any of these 3 movies, depending on the day. It could be a different answer. But for me, Weapons was so good. I had so much fun with it. I saw it multiple times when it was out in theaters. I've seen it, I think, 1 or 2 times since it's been out at home. And I just love it. I think it's the most accessible, of these 3. Of these 3 of my top 3, it's the most accessible film. I think it's one that everybody can watch and everyone can get enjoyment out of. The performances all around are fantastic. I'm really glad that Amy Madigan is getting recognition for her role as Aunt Gladys in this film, because she is fantastic in this film. But everybody else does great too. I think what holds it back and why it's not either my number 2 or number 1 is just that I think in some of the chapters we kind of spend time with characters that I didn't really care for all that much. And the most interesting chapters are definitely the ones with those characters I did like. So I think that's the only thing that holds it back from being at the very top. But man, Zach Cregger has immediately inserted himself as one of the best horror directors of this era. Anytime he releases anything, I'm going to be there day one. I love that he is taking on Resident Evil, and that's his next film. That's definitely one of my most anticipated films. So I can't wait for anything that he puts out. And Weapons comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is going to be the new kid on the block, my boy Timmy, Marty Supreme. Wow, this film, this is really the film that made this list, and specifically this top 3, very hard to do because it just came so late in the year. I didn't want it to be recency bias. I put it at number 1, and then it's because it's recent. I really wanted time to give it to fester, to think about how I felt about it, let my emotions settle on it. And for me, it still comes in at number 2. It is such a great film. Josh Safdie to me kind of proves that he is the Safdie brother that does the things that I like the most out of them both. And because this film feels like a spiritual successor to Uncut Gems in the fact that it is so chaotic, it's so all over the place. It gives you an uneasy feeling because it's just constantly going through crazy stuff, and Timothy gives a fantastic performance. I know this has been like a controversial thing the last like week or two about like awards and who should win best actor, you know, um, between Timothy and Michael B. Jordan. But I'll be honest with you guys, I think Timothy deserves it. I think he gave the best performance. And the only reason I say that is because this is a transformative performance. When you watch this movie, you do not see Timothy Chalamet and you see Marty Mauser. That's who you're watching. He transforms into this character. And some of his other performances I think are really good. I really think he's good as Paul Atreides. I thought he was good in Interstellar. I know he was in I can't remember the movie with like Florence Pugh and all those other movies and other big name actors. But here he just really transforms into Marty Mauser, and he gives such an electric performance in such a chaotic movie. And this movie, and the reason that I think he deserves Best Actor, because this movie really hinges on him. This movie doesn't work if you don't get this performance out of Timothy Chalamet. And I think that's what makes it makes him separate himself from the other crop of best actors, which I think this was a very competitive year, and I still think he stands out. If you would have asked me back in 2019, what my favorite movie of that year was, I would have told you Avengers Endgame because of my like diehard fandom for the MCU at that time. But the movie that I think I look back on more and that I revisit and I really think is the best film of that year was Uncut Gems. I think the Safdie brothers, and specifically Josh Safdie, have gotten better with each installment. I think all three of their movies, between Good Time, Uncut Gems, and now Marty Supreme, all have similar main characters, but in each one, they just get a little bit more likable. I thought Connie from Good Times was very despicable, nothing really redeemable about him. I thought they started to kind of get you to enjoy and like the main character a little more with Howard Ratner and Uncut Gems, but he still had some things, he was a little older, so it was kind of irredeemable at this point. This movie is about a 20-year-old kid who is just chasing his dreams. He's not a good person. He's causing a lot of destruction in his path to achieve his dreams, but that core mentality is something that I think everybody can relate to. Anyone who wants to do something that they have dreamed about for a long time can relate to Marty Mauser. You can't relate to all the crap he does to get there, but you can relate to the core message and what he's trying to do in this film. And I think that's what makes this one stand out. And I think that's what makes this the best, of the Safdie brothers films. I think this is the best one so far. And that I don't feel like is recency bias talking, because I did go back and watch Good Time and watch Uncut Gems after seeing this film. And I really think that this is either of their best films, and I think Josh Safdie has arrived and has said, "Hey, I'm here to take over, even if it's by myself." So for me, Marty Supreme comes in at number 2. But to me, coming in at number 1 is gonna be Ryan Coogler's Sinners. What an incredible and monumental film this was. Ryan Coogler, I think this is his best film, and he's had a lot of great films, but I think this one encapsulates his vision, his style of storytelling more than any of them. This is such a great ensemble cast, and I say ensemble because I want to talk about all the controversy that's been going on that I kind of briefly mentioned with Marty Supreme, but this ensemble is so great, and he festers a story from all these great actors in such a way that resonates with anyone. I'm obviously not ignorant. I understand the cultural impact that this film had, specifically within the African American community. I mean, this movie destroyed it at the domestic box office. It was a smash hit, and it performed much better here than it did anywhere else in the world. So I completely understand that that's who, this film was made for. But I think there's a lot here that you can relate to, that it can relate to everyone, all peoples of color. And that's what I think the best movies are, when you can get the biggest possible audience to watch your film and take something from it that you can relate to. The performances here are great. Look, Michael B. Jordan deserves all the praise in the world for his performance here. If this was any other year, he would be my runaway for Best Actor. I just think he's working in a particularly stacked year. But to me, this is the best movie of the year because the story it tells. It was marketed as like a horror vampire esque film, and while the elements of that are here, it is not the main storyline. This is a story about two brothers returning home, trying to start something that is theirs, that they can break free from all the things that they've done in their lives, all the things that have held them back, and one night of them trying to achieve their own dreams to be free. And I thought the movie was so beautiful. I thought the cinematography was fantastic. The score is incredible. I mean, my God, the score is so good in this film. Performances all across the board are great. Michael B. Jordan, Miles Canton, Haley Steinfeld. I could go on. I drawing blanks right now on names, but the whole cast is fantastic. Jack O'Connor as Remick, one of the best villains ever. Straight up, one of the best villains ever. I can't wait to see what he does in 28 years later. Bone Temple here next week. And yeah, I just, this movie was my favorite film of the year for so long, and it almost got knocked off. Marty Supreme almost came in and knocked it off, but once I really sat on it and really thought about it, I couldn't put any other movie at number one because I think this film just defines 2025 overall and defines what this year in cinema was. And it happens so, I think part of it as to why it doesn't get the love right now in award season that I think it deserves and that a lot of people don't talk about is this came out in April. But I think that's just a testament to how good the film is, that it came out so early in the year and is garnering such attention and such demand from the people that saw it, that it's all this time later and it's still being touted as the best film of the year. And I think it is the best film of the year. I really do. I think there was so much here to like about it. So much was done well. And again, Ryan Coogler, I mean, at this point, I don't know what he can't do. I think he's one of the best directors in the game right now. And I think that's really, like, my top three. It was so hard to determine what it was. And why I went with this film in particular is because I feel like of the three, this felt like the realization of Ryan Coogler. This felt like the film where he really said, no, I'm one of the best. I know he's a very humble guy. He doesn't really like competing with other filmmakers and stuff like that. He's went on record publicly about it. But this really felt like his like magnum opus, where like he's just like, this is a director fully realized with a cast and a crew of actors and everything else fully realized, delivering one of the best ensemble films and one of the best experiences of 2025 and of probably the last 10 years. Honestly, there's not many movies I think of that I'm like, yeah, that was better than Sinners. So it was very hard to make this decision, but Sinners comes in at number one. All right, guys, well, that's it. That's my top 10 of 2025. That was a very long video, so I appreciate you if you watched the whole thing. Go ahead and comment below. Let me know what your top 10 or even top 5 movies are of 2025. Like I've said multiple times in this video, very competitive year. A lot of good movies that came out, and it was hard. It was very hard to make this list. I struggled in this year, probably more than I have in previous years, to be honest, in quite some time. So it was a great year for movies. So yeah, comment below. Let me know what your ranking was, what your favorite movie of the year was, anything, when it comes to 2025. And obviously, we're already 12 days into 2026. I haven't really seen too many movies yet. I've only been to the movies once. I saw Primate last night. So look out for a review for that. And then we're going to kick off strong going into the new year. I'll get a review for that. We'll review some other movies. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, everyone. Have a great night.